Good morning, Masters. Chapter 4. Why can't we get pregnant? Problems with conception and miscarriage. Two of the most frustrating issues for prospective parents are problems with conception and miscarriage. While doctors have great success in helping couples address these issues, they are limited by their methodology to considering only two-thirds of the conception equation, the physical and mental health of the mother and father. While this emphasis on the physical mechanics of conception often leads to success, it can also unintentionally place too much responsibility on the parents, especially on the women. I don't know what's wrong with me. I feel like such a failure is a sentiment I hear repeatedly from my clients. How can they be doing everything right and still not be able to conceive or sustain a pregnancy? I believe the answer can often be found by considering the needs and insecurities of the third member of the conception equation, the spirit of the unborn child. The conception contract. A key factor that contributes to difficulties in conceiving a child and to miscarriage is a problem with something I call the conception contract. The conception contract is an energy bond that appears at the moment of conception. It represents an agreement between a mother, father, and the spirit of a child to be. Each participant commits to playing a particular role in the fulfillment of the other's destiny. Disagreement, misunderstanding, or desire to change these roles can affect the ability to conceive and carry a child to term. This is why I believe that resolving issues around the conception contract is an important consideration in any approach to these problems. Most of the desire to change or clarify the conception contract comes from the spirit baby. Even in the spirit stage of their existence, the unconceived have the desire to communicate and be reassured. The prospect of a new life and identity can be quite frightening. If they do not feel listened to or receive the reassurance they seek, they will often withhold themselves from the conception contract. It is easy for spirit babies to feel lost in the confusion and frustration that occurs when a couple has difficulty conceiving. The doctors, the tests, timing intercourse for maximum fertility, and worrying if something is really wrong can leave even the most loving couple tense, distracted, and frustrated. With all the attention on the physical mechanics of conception, it is easy for spirit babies to feel neglected and need reassurance. As this next story shows, sometimes the little reassurance is all that is needed. Robin's Lullaby. Robin was 34 years old and ready to have her first child. She and her husband Dennis had been trying to get pregnant for 18 months and were having no success. As each month passed, their anxiety and frustration mounted. Things were tense in the household, and sex had become a chore rather than a pleasure. What I want, she said to me, is to try to get some understanding of why is this happening. When I looked into Robin's aura, I could see the small figure of a young girl with a withdrawn, sad look. Telepathically, I asked her if she were going to be Robin's and Dennis' baby. The girl nodded affirmatively, so I asked her what was wrong. Mommy doesn't sing to me anymore. Tell Mommy to sing to me again. I tried to get more details, but her answer was always the same. Tell Mommy to sing to me again. I reported our conversation to Robin and asked whether the spirit's words had any meaning for her. After a long silence, Robin told me that one of her earliest memories was the comfort of her mother singing to her. She wanted to continue this tradition with her own children and had often practiced singing her mother's lullaby. However, it had been some time since she had felt like singing. I explained to Robin that the spirits of unconceived children are often very sensitive to emotional tensions in their prospective family. They can become withdrawn and need extra reassurance that they are loved and wanted. Robin's child to be had been getting this reassurance from the lullaby. I asked her to start singing the lullaby again every day, and as she sang, to imagine the words flowing from her heart to the heart of the baby spirit. A few months later, I heard back from Robin. One day after she had just finished practicing the lullaby and visualization, she felt a warm glow in her heart that spread down into her uterus. I could really feel the presence of a child, she told me. I knew I was pregnant. When the doctor confirmed this a few weeks later, Robin was not surprised. Robin's story shows how sensitive spirit babies can be to the emotional climate of their families. In time of stress, spirit babies often need the comforting reassurance of their mother's attention before they will take the first big step toward their new life. It is important to remember that conception is a life transforming event not only for the parents but for the spirit baby as well. Conception depends on the compatible alignment of three separate life forces: the mother and father, who create the physical body, and the baby spirit, whose soul animates the body. In order to create this alignment, the challenges, life lessons, and goals that we are each here to experience in this lifetime must be in harmony. This compatibility allows the mother, father, and spirit baby to form a conception contract, an energy bond that defines the role each is to play in nurturing this new human life. This energy bond is the metaphysical representation of their physical relationship. At the moment of conception, when the contract is accepted, each participant acknowledges that they have entered into a karmic bond. Their life forces are now intertwined. Their actions and decisions will play an integral part in the fulfillment of one another's individual destinies. What does a conception contract look like to a clairvoyant? As is the case with most contracts, the terms and stipulations of the conception contract are open to some negotiation. This negotiation is often clairvoyantly evident when one of my clients is trying to conceive a child. In their aura will appear an image of three spirits: mother, father, and spirit baby, all gathered around a triangular gold table. Each holds in their hands a number of images shaped like pieces of a jigsaw puzzle, which they are trying to fit together. These images represent the different ideas and expectations that each bring to the contract. When these negotiations are going well, I will often see the face of a newborn appearing on the surface of the table. However, when talks are at an impasse, the image on the table is fragmented, like scattered pieces of a jigsaw puzzle. This scattered image tells me that some basic disagreements or misunderstanding among mother, father, and spirit baby is playing a role in preventing conception. Boy or a girl? An important part of the conception contract is whether the spirit baby will become a boy or a girl. In some contracts, this provision is left in the hands of the parents. Their need to experience raising a boy or a girl determines the sex of the spirit baby. Other contracts are created around the spirit baby's need to determine its own gender identity. In such cases, the parents' acceptance of their unconceived child's gender identity is necessary for conception. Normally, this acceptance is not a problem. However, as the next story illustrates, a spirit baby who feels his or her gender choice is being ignored can delay conception. I want to be a boy. Lucy and David were at the end of their rope. They had been trying unsuccessfully for 3 years to start a family. Doctors were at loss to explain why they couldn't conceive a baby. Both were in good health. Every test they took came back normal. Because I'm a clairvoyant medium, people often come to me when they want to understand the spiritual dynamics of their situation. Lucy had booked a session with me to see if I could help her understand why she wasn't able to get pregnant. As she sat before me, I felt the intimate presence of another being in the room, a presence so real that it startled me. I focused clairvoyantly on the source of this feeling and was immediately confronted with an energy, green and red ball of light. The light expanded and transformed into the image of a young boy. My experience as a clairvoyant told me that this was the spirit of an unconceived child. Normally, when a spirit is this strong in a person's energy field, I have found that conception is seldom a problem. However, in this case, the spirit was very angry. So I asked it what was wrong and what Lucy and I could do to help. They want me to be a little girl, and I am a little boy, he said as he crossed his arms over his chest. I explained to Lucy that the spirit of her future child was right there with her all the time, but he had gotten the idea that they didn't want him if he was a boy, and he really didn't want to be a girl. I told Lucy that, from my point of view, this was the issue that was keeping her from getting pregnant. Lucy looked astonished. She said it was true that every time she and her husband imagined having their first child, they always saw a girl. However, this didn't mean they wouldn't welcome a little boy into their family. I told Lucy that the spirit baby around her was very sensitive and felt rejected by them, imagining a little girl as part of their family. Can you tell him that we would welcome and cherish him as part of our family? She asked. When I conveyed this information to the baby spirit, the anger seemed to diminish a bit, but he still seemed unconvinced. As I continued to clairvoyantly assess the situation, I told Lucy that in order to make this particular spirit feel welcome, she and her husband need to consciously imagine all the things they would do with a little boy after he was born. Lucy was happy for this insight into her situation and was eager to try this visualization with her husband. 2 months later, an ecstatic Lucy called to thank me and let me know that she and David were pregnant. 9 months later, they had a healthy little boy. My experience with Lucy and David and with many other clients has taught me that spirit babies come to the conception contract with specific needs vital to the fulfillment of their destiny. Lucy and David's spirit baby knew he needed to be a little boy. Being in a male body was a non negotiable part of this new identity. Even the suggestion that his future parents might want a girl was enough to make him feel unwanted. Only when he was assured that his choice was honored and supported would he consent to enter into the birth contract. Location, location, location. Spirit babies can also be sensitive to the physical environment they will be born into. If they do not feel comfortable or at homes in their parents' environment, they can withhold themselves from the conception contract until their needs are understood. Ginny and Carl had been trying for 9 months to conceive their first child. While no one was panicking yet, Ginny was concerned. When Carl and I married, I immediately felt the presence of a child, she told me. So when I wanted to get pregnant, I thought it would be easy. But the more Carl and I try, the more I get the feeling something's not right. Am I just imagining things, or is there something I should be concerned about? She asked me. Ginny's aura revealed a neon green oval indicating the presence of an unconceived spirit. However, the neon cast to the green worried me because this is usually a sign that the spirit baby is under stress. When I telepathically asked if I could be of assistance, the image of a 7 or 8-year-old girl appeared with her hands over her ears. It's too loud, too loud, she said. When I asked her what was too loud, she just rolled her eyes in exasperation, then clapped her hands. Suddenly it was as if I were watching movie. A young girl and her father were walking hand in hand, first on a deserted beach and then on a trail through the redwoods. They finally arrived at a log home where Guinea stood waiting at the door. The young girl ran up to her and jumped into her arms. After hugging her mother, the young girl turned to me and said empathetically, "This is where we should live." I reported to Guinea what I had seen. As I began my explanation, Guinea just laughed. "You don't have to explain," she said. "We live in the noisiest part of the city. You can't leave the windows open because the sirens and traffic noise go on day and night." I laughed because you saw a father and daughter in the picture. Lately, Carl has started to say things like, "I don't want to raise my child in the city. Let's move to the coast." I did not hear from Guinea and Carl until a friend of theirs came for a consultation many years later. He told me that Guinea and Carl had moved to a small coastal town and had a daughter. Guinea told me to tell you that every time they bring their daughter to the city to visit her grandparents, she covers her ears and says, "It's too noisy, mommy. When are we going home?" Guinea and Carl's story is important for two reasons. First, it illustrates that even before conception, spirit babies have a sense of their own personality and how comfortable they are with their parents' environment. Guinea and Carl's daughter knew her temperament would feel more nurtured in a quiet environment and that her parents' noisy home wouldn't do. Second, it shows that spirit babies try to communicate their needs telepathically to their parents. While it is easy to see the mother as the one who would serve as a sounding board for a future child, many fathers have an equally strong bond. Like Carl, they find themselves unknowingly voicing the needs of their child to be through their own actions and desires. I have always been fascinated by why spirit babies choose certain images to communicate. Many times they seem to choose an image that represents a future time when they can clearly communicate their thoughts and desires. Guinea and Carl's spirit baby, for example, knew she was going to be a girl and represented herself as a girl of 7 or 8 who could speak her mind. Often, past lives are the source of a spirit baby's imagery, and some appear as children or adults from another time period or culture. When a past life image appears, it usually indicates that events from that lifetime will specifically impact their future. Whether they choose an image from the past or the future, I believe the spirit baby's main goal is to find a form that can clearly express their needs. Past lives and the conception contract. As I have noted in previous chapters, past lives are often the source of present time child and parent relationships. Friends, siblings, children, and parents often work out issues and lessons from other lifetimes by taking on parent child roles in this one. Past life issues can also be the source of conception problems. Each time we incarnate, we bring with us a karmic to do list. This list details the strengths we are here to develop, the limitations we are here to overcome, the lessons we are here to learn, and the love we are here to acknowledge and share. Most of the time, any unfinished business is carried over into the next lifetime. This is why those who become aware of their past lives notice lessons, behaviors, and relationships that repeat lifetime after lifetime. There are times, however, when we must have closure before we can go on. When this occurs, the spirit baby must delay the conception contract as it seeks to acknowledge and complete some important aspect of a previous life. "My husband and I are trying to have our third child," said Janine as she sat down in my office. "I want to know what you see." Janine's aura contained an empty gray oval. This energy form usually means that although a future contract for a child exists, the spirit baby who is to fulfill that contract is not yet present. When I told Janine what I saw and explained that no spirit child was present, she became very animated. "That's exactly how I feel. With my other kids, I could tell they were with me right before I got pregnant. This time, It feels like nobody is home. Janine asked for more information, so I sent a beam of energy into the grey oval to see if anyone would respond. After a few moments, the image of a little girl appeared. She nodded when I asked her if she was Janine's next baby. Before I could ask anything else, however, the little girl looked at me very seriously and said, "Tell her I'm waiting for Grandma." When I pressed her for more details, the image transformed into one of a woman in her mid-20s dressed in a Victorian style. I owe Cecily a debt of gratitude. She began in a clipped British accent. She gave her life for mine. As she spoke, the image of a woman carrying a young girl out of a burning house appeared. "Cecily is going to die soon," she continued. "I must wait and thank her." When she finished speaking, the image again became one of a little girl. "Tell her I'm waiting for Grandma." The spirit of Janine's future child wanted to repay a karmic debt. She wanted to acknowledge the selfless actions of a woman who had saved her life. When I revealed my experiences to Janine, she was intrigued. The only grandma in the family was her mother in law, Cecily, whose health was declining steadily. I explained to Janine that her spirit baby wanted to repay a karmic debt. Before she could let go of her previous identity as a woman of the Victorian era, she needed to acknowledge Cecily for saving her life. Once Cecily passed over, the spirit baby would be able to meet her and say thank you. This would bring closure to the Victorian lifetime and allow the spirit baby to fully commit herself to being Janine's new daughter. I did not see Janine again for almost 8 years. Cecily had died about a month after our reading, and Janine had become pregnant about 6 months later. This child, a girl, was now 6 years old. She always talks about her grandmother as if she knew her, Janine told me. When my other girls tell her she never met Grandma, she always says, "Oh, yes, I did." Unborn spirits have choices to make. I noted earlier in this chapter that conception depends on the alignment of three separate life forces: the mother and father, who create the physical body, and the spirit baby, who animates the body. It is important to remember that the unborn spirit has a choice about when to animate this body. The spirit babies in each of the above stories chose to withhold themselves from conception until they felt the time was right. Each waited until the love, acceptance, and patience of their prospective parents created just the right environment to begin their new lives. In the world of spirit babies, conception is only the first step on the road to human life. Spirit babies can choose whether to continue on this road or not. When there are conception problems, the spirit baby is saying, "Hold my hand, mommy. Hold my hand, daddy. Help me take this first big step." In the preconception world of spirit babies, there is a great freedom to explore the possibilities life has to offer. Often, when I am asked to look at a spirit before conception, it will appear as a stream of constantly changing images. Each image represents a different role the spirit baby will have to play in its future life. During the preconception period, the spirit baby gets a chance to review and preview each of these roles in a safe environment. If the challenges or fears brought out by any of these roles become too much for the spirit baby, it can, if it wishes, immediately change roles and experience a more nurturing and comforting aspect of its life. Once conception occurs and the process of creating human life begins, the world of the spirit baby changes. As its body begins to grow in the womb, the reality of its new life begins to sink in. All of the spirit baby's emotional needs, thoughts, and sensations are amplified. There is a heightened sensitivity to the needs, hopes, and fears of its parents, and an expanded awareness of the physical world. The spirit has entered the next phase of its preparation for life. It has entered the world of the unborn. Okay, masters, we can stop here. Thank you very much.